the most powerful people in this city. You guys know that? Yeah, I just took 2 kegs of ale from the tavern down the street, and they didn't even try to stop me.
This is almost too easy. I can steal whatever I want in broad daylight. No sneaking required.
We're like adventurers gone wild or something like that.
Yeah, we're invincible.
You know, you would think that cities would figure out how to deal with lawless idiots like us.
I hate to be the wet blanket around here, but are you sure this is a good idea? It seems a little too good to be true.
Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Luke Hart, and I've been a Dungeon Master since high school. On this channel, I give practical Dungeon Master advice that you can implement at your game table. Now, recently, one of my games had a moment of crisis that occurred when one of the characters broke the law. An implosion that was largely my fault happened, and the game session, and maybe even in the entire group, was on the verge of falling apart. This is the story of that game session. Now, the Sword Coast Guard was in Rassalantar, investigating rumors of giants in the area. They wanted to make sure that the giants hadn't attacked the town. And while they were there, they wanted to gather more information about the giants. And one of the players, a ranger, and also a friend of mine who was new to the game, wanted to scout around the town, but he needed a horse to do so. So he went to the Waterdeep soldier barracks in town and asked to borrow a horse. Since the character was part of the fabled Sword Coast Guard adventuring party, the soldier initially agreed. But then the player made some sly comment flouting his power and influence, and the soldier changed his mind. But the ranger pushed aside the soldier, took the horse, and rode out of the stables. Now, this all started because of a major failing on my part. My friend was new to my game, though he wasn't new to D&D in general, and I failed to tell him that I run a gritty, realistic game world for the most part. I also did not explain to him how lawful the region was, and that is something that his character would have known. You see, I was denying him important information that would have informed his decision about stealing that horse. If he had had that information, this entire story may have transpired differently. So Joe, sorry man, that was all on me. Another thing that I could have done is literally give my players a handout with all of the local laws of the region. And this is something that I actually did for the new Dragon Heist campaign that I'm starting up with a different group. Finally, even if he had that information and he was in the know, I should have given him one little reminder before he actually went and committed that crime. I think that it's easy to forget things like that in the game, and I should have given him the benefit of the doubt. Hey buddy, you know that it's against the law to steal and that the Waterdeep officials are not likely to take kindly to it, right? That's basically the equivalent of, are you sure? So the player's ranger rides the horse out of the stables with the soldier running after him, shouting, "Horse thief!" And at this, more soldiers scramble out of the barracks, which is right next to the stables, and begin readying longbows, getting prepared to take down the horse thief. The ranger, meanwhile, is galloping away. One of the other players, a paladin, confronts the captain of the soldiers, screaming at him to stop this insanity. And the captain finally tells his soldiers to stand down. Now, I'll admit, this was a very rough scene for me, because as a dungeon master, I could feel things tumbling out of control. I certainly did not want to make this an issue at the game table, but I felt like my hands were tied. I mean, the law had been broken, and I felt that the soldiers of a lawful community were sworn to uphold it. I was in a difficult role-playing quandary that I quite honestly did not want to be in. It would have quite honestly been much easier to just let them get away with stealing a horse so that the game could go on. However, then I would feel that I had been role-playing the soldiers quite horribly. However, now in retrospect, I realize that I could have handled role-playing the soldiers quite differently than I did. It later occurred to me that Waterdeep soldiers quite frequently deal with adventurers gone wild, and they know that the standard Waterdeep soldier is no match for them. So surely they would have a plan for this sort of thing. And they do. They're called other powerful adventurers that work for the city. You see, I realized that common soldiers were not likely to just throw their lives away in a situation like this. Instead, they would escalate this situation and this crime to those other powerful adventurers that the city keeps on retainer just just for situations like this. And then those adventurers would execute justice, not the city guards. So I actually don't think my original role-playing quandary was completely justified.
Hello, people! We have a quick message for you, and then we'll get right back to the spicy story.
Are you looking for inexpensive, easy-to-use D&D adventures that you can use in your games? If so, check out the adventures that we publish over on Drive Through RPG. There is a link in the description.
Ha! That's it, people! Now back to the program.
With the soldiers standing down, the captain of the guards turns to the paladin and demands to know what is going on. Why would a member of their party be stealing horses? The paladin retorts that they will take care of it and that the horse will be returned. He also mentions that they have saved the city countless times, so the captain should trust them to make matters right. The captain, however, begins to demand that the heroes go and track down their companion right at that moment and bring that horse back immediately. The paladin angrily retorts that if that's how the soldiers are going to treat the Sword Coast Guard, then they aren't going to help them with any of Waterdeep's problems. And this is when the implosion happened. I erroneously thought that the Paladin's player was genuinely upset at me, the Dungeon Master, for this chain of events, and that he was saying he was no longer going to play in the game. Now, I had internally been becoming more and more agitated, and at that point, I straight up said that the game session was over. I simply lost my cool. And wow, you should have seen the look on the Rangers player as he witnessed all of this unfolding. It was this sort of mixture between, is this really happening? And, oh crap, what did I do? Now at this point, the captain of the Waterdeep soldiers acknowledges all that the Sword Coast Guard has done for them and for their city. He says that they'll trust them to figure things out with their companion and return the stolen horse. The paladin then gathers up the rest of the party and they all ride off on legally borrowed horses to track down their companion. And have a few stern words, of course. Now, in all honesty, I was 100% at fault for this chain of events. It was all on me. I will definitely own that crap. And my other mistake is that I completely misread my player, the paladin. I thought that he was genuinely upset at me, but he was just role-playing his paladin. What I could have done is simply address the player and ask him, are you legitimately upset with me? See, I could have labeled it and then started a discussion about it. Instead, I made assumptions based on my feelings and the sort of turmoil that I felt within. Now, there were several tense moments at the table, but we talked things out and calmer minds prevailed. But from my point of view, it was nearly a complete meltdown. And if we hadn't have talked it out in that moment, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, the entire game could have been over. And that would have sucked. Now, in the end, we did work things out and we continued playing. We're still playing to this day, but holy crap, that is the sort of session that I never want to have again. Another thing to be learned here is that every Dungeon Master screws up. Every single one. What really separates a good Dungeon Master from a bad Dungeon Master is a willingness to own the screw up, make things right, and then do better next time. If you learn from your mistakes and do better as a result, you are on a path to becoming a great Dungeon Master. Because the simple truth of the matter is that everyone's crap stinks. Let me know what you would have done in this situation when a character brazenly breaks the law. And if you want to learn about the first TPK that I ever had in one of my games, check this video right here out. And if you want to watch the actual game session where this meltdown occurred, click right there. And until next time,
Stop breaking the law!